school board meeting tonight. We will, if I could, we have established a quorum. I just wanted to, Jill, my colleague Jill Sperring wanted me to say that she's not here tonight due to a death in her family, so she won't be here tonight, and just keep her in your thoughts and prayers if you would. If I could get Mr. Eric Huth to lead us in the pledge tonight.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start with 30 seconds in my district. Dr. Brannon?
Yes, this is from Shane Elementary in District 2, and the principal is Elena Wilson. All fourth grade teachers and 2 art and music teachers were selected to have recently participated in the TPAC Arts Integration Institute. They're super excited and working diligently to integrate the arts within the daily core instruction. Also, they were recently selected as one of 5 Metro Nashville schools to participate in the Disney musical in schools. So they're super excited about the opportunities that they're getting.
Oh, okay. Ms. Froh?
Bellevue Middle Prep student Ja'Cory Reed is currently featured on a Kellogg box for the Dollar General stores. And the photo was taken last year at Westmead Elementary School with his tutor, Judy Getz, of the 50 Forward tutoring program. So I just want to extend a congratulations for this honor and a big thank you to those who volunteer their time through programs like 50 Forward to improve the lives of our students. Also, I have Jill's announcement, so I'll be Jill for a moment.
Okay.
Maplewood had an all-day ACT boot camp on October 21st, 2017, sponsored by the Urban League of Middle Tennessee and by Napa Auto Parts. Auto Parts provided lunch for every student who attended the ACT boot camp. Maplewood. Yeah. The ACT boot camp was open to other students in the Nashville area as well. It covered all tested areas and provided students with the tools of success to help them increase their confidence and understand how to calculate their ACT test score goal. And the person who shared this information added a little addendum. Dr. Mason is the best principal ever. So.
Very good. Ms. Hunter?
Yes, Antioch High School would like to acknowledge 2 fantastic students, Tobias Roberts and Adora Migbo. These 2 students had the opportunity to participate in the School for Science and Math program at Vanderbilt University. In addition, Cane Ridge High School will be celebrating a host memorial breakfast for its first principal, Dr. Laura Hall. That's all.
Yes.
Yes, the state recently released the 10 Ready scores, and we had 14 schools in Nashville that were listed as reward schools, and 2 were in my district, Glendale Spanish Immersion and Percy Priest Elementary, so congratulations to those schools.
Ms. Buggs?
In that same breath, I had a number of reward schools in my district. Those that were considered top academic performing and progressing were Meigs, Hume Fogg, Martin Luther King, and East End Prep. Those that were considered top academic performing, Lockland, top academic progressing, Rose Park, Cameron, KIPP, Lead, and KIPP Nashville. So congratulations to those schools. Also, I want to make everyone aware of what's happening with the Envision Napier and Sudacum project. They will be having a Bridging the Gap resource fair on Saturday, November 4th from 12 to 3 p.m. at Pruitt Library.
Okay. Well, today was Leadership Donaldson Hermitage Education Day, so I got to spend the day showing off some of the schools in my district. And we started off at McGavock Elementary, where the current class members were treated to the librarian, who was named Librarian of the Year last year, Mr. Farah. And then they got to read to the students in the school, and of course, that was their highlight for the morning. We also went to Two Rivers Middle School, where we got to tour the school, see a reading clinic, and see their beautiful Community Achieves room where it's just stocked with everything. And I have to thank Dr. Narcisse for getting shelving built this past summer for that school. They really do appreciate that. And also, we ended up our day at McGavock High School, where Dr. Joseph came to speak, and Dr. Felder actually came this morning for a morning session, and the culinary students prepared a delicious lunch for us, and so they prepared the lunch, they served the lunch, and then they cleaned up while we finished up our day. So I had a fun day today. It was good. So, all right, moving on.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, before we move on, I do have one of my interns that was not here last week. If my 3 interns could stand up, we have Ms. Dawn Effianai, Anna Wilkins, and Charlie Utley. So please be kind to them. Give them a big round of applause. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you. Dr. Joseph,
This is the
awards and recognition.
I'm going to turn it over to Deborah Story, Chief of Human Resources, and she will talk about the 2017 Wellbeing Award.
Over the years, MNPS has been making major strides to provide opportunities, services, and facilities for our employees to increase their health and overall wellness, and have exceeded in doing so with the support of the MNPS Insurance Trust Board of Trustees. Several of those board members are here today. Jill Spearing, Jill's not here, is she?
Right.
Not here today, but Jill Spearing, Dr. Joanne Brannon, Thais Hunter, Chris Henson. The Insurance Board Chair is Eric Huth, and David Hines, our Executive Director, also sits on that board. David Hines, our Executive Director of Employee Benefits for MNPS, is actually the person who is spearheading our employee health and wellness initiatives, along with his outstanding team of benefits and wellness professionals, which include Josie Holt, who is sitting behind us here. She's our wellness coordinator. The results that David and his team have accomplished are outstanding and have not gone unrecognized. It is with pride that I introduce Cigna Insurance Mid-South President Greg Allen, who will make a special presentation in recognition of our accomplishments.
Thanks, Deborah. I'm Greg Allen, and I just wanted to say thank you for the work you guys do for our kids. Middle Tennessee is my home, and so it's with great pleasure that I get to be here tonight. Lots of nominations come into Cigna for clients of ours that think they should be recognized for well-being awards. Not everyone can win, obviously. So out of hundreds of nominations, you guys really stood apart. With 4 clinics that you've helped get going in partnership with us, with the Wellness Center that you guys have on this campus, and the team that you guys have put together is just phenomenal. Working with some of our professionals and trying to overall, with the goal being to give health, well-being, and a sense of security to your employees, to our customers, and you as a client. Your commitment to a culture of health and well-being has served your employees well, and I applaud you in your efforts. They not only help with their health and their family's health, but it also helps with just from an overall productivity and a bottom line perspective from the overall organization. We at Cigna are proud to have you as a client and as a continued client. And it fits, what you guys are doing fits so well with our mission to, again, improve people's health, well-being, and sense of security. So it's with great pleasure that Paul Huffman, your client manager with Cigna, and I present this, Dr. Joseph, to you, Madam Chair, Anna Shepard, David, and the crew, and Chris. We appreciate the partnership. Look forward to many more years of that, and congratulations, and thank you for letting us be here to present that to you guys tonight.
got to go down there.
We'll wait till then. Okay. Dr. Brandon, we'll move into our governance issues and begin with our consent agenda. Dr. Brandon?
The consent agenda reads as follows. A, awarding of purchases and contracts. Number 1, CDW Government. Number 2, SRI. Number 3, University of Colorado, Denver. Number 4, University of South Florida. Number 5, Vanderbilt University. Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so we need to vote on this if you use your iPad.
I just ask a question.
Yeah, you-
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
On the evaluation metrics in the consent agenda, it just says quality of goods and services received. I'm assuming because these are tied back to the grant, that they
Yes.
have more clearly stated objectives and measurements? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, the consent agenda has passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, New Eagle View Elementary Attendance Zone. Dr. Joseph.
Sure, thank you. As you're aware, the Cane Ridge cluster is crowded and still growing. Cane Ridge Elementary School, in particular, is severely overcrowded. To remedy this, Metro Nashville Schools is planning for a new elementary school, Eagle View Elementary School, nearby that will relieve overcrowding by moving students out of Cane Ridge Elementary School into the new Eagle View Elementary. The proposed zoning change would go into effect during the 2018-2019 school year, which is also when Eagle View Elementary will be completed. MNPS has been meeting with parents and neighbors to communicate the proposed changes as well as to solicit input from the proposed rezoning. We held a well-attended August 31st meeting at Cane Ridge High School regarding the new Eagle View Elementary School and its proposed zoning changes. And tonight, we have Mr. Chris Weber, who can discuss the proposal to the board, and we'd like to provide an opportunity for the public input, or public input on October 17th, and we will vote tonight. So Mr. Weber can share any additional information with you, but today would be the day for the vote. So if any board members had any questions regarding it, I know we've talked about it before.
Trace, you have any questions? Thank you.
I would be happy to take questions. The proposal that's today brought to you tonight for vote is the same proposal that we brought to board meetings prior. There have been no changes made to it before then, since then.
Everybody good with it? Very good. So I am looking for a motion to approve the new attendance zone, changes attendance zone.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the new zones
Can I get a second?
for the Eagleville Elementary School.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded and properly seconded to approve the new Eagle View Elementary attendance zone. Now, do we have any discussion around this? Anybody have any questions or discussion? Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote then. Dr. Brandon. Come on. Me too. Oh, gotcha.
I got it.
Right, gotcha.
And it should come up in a second.
Okay. Well, that was easy.
Are we supposed to be voting? Or
Oh, okay, so the motion passed unanimously as read. Okay, well, thank you then. So we'll move on to item number 3, which is the 2018-19 district calendar, my fave.
Yes. So last week, we shared a draft of the 2018-2019 calendar, and then we posted it on the MNPS website with a short survey so we can gather more feedback before you voted today. The online survey asked 4 questions, one about the importance of the length of a full week for fall break, one asked about the importance of having a 4-day Labor Day weekend, one asked about the importance of scheduling 2 conference days in each half of the year and the importance of finishing the academic year prior to Memorial Day. We had more than 2,244 respondents weigh in on the short survey designed to help the calendar committee have additional information that could be incorporated into the discussion of how to best use the academic calendar. The survey was primarily intended for families, but teachers and staff were welcome to participate. Specific feedback from faculty and staff were not a feature of this short survey. Their feedback came through traditional channels such as MNEA, SEIU, and through feedback to district leadership, as well as we had over 200 responses on Facebook that we gathered where teachers gave lots of input to us. Our respondents have a very strong desire to have a full week for both fall break and spring break. There are only 8% of respondents that believed that it wasn't important, and more than 80% believed that it was important or very important. Opinions were divided on the idea of creating a 4-day weekend for students over Labor Day, with 25% believing it was very important and 40% responding that it was not very important. When we asked about the importance of having 2 parent-teacher conference days with one each semester, there was no overwhelming opinion. Nearly 55% of respondents shared that it was important, very important, while 45% said that it was somewhat important or not important. Respondents felt more strongly about making certain that school ended prior to Memorial Day, with 70% of families feeling that it was very important or important. Oh, and again, we also heard quite a bit on social media, and the comments primarily focused on the desire to incorporate more planning days into the academic year. And on that topic, we have spoken with our MNEA. We've been working closely with them, and we've been in the process of working with the collaborative conferencing there. And one of the things that we have talked about is how do we find more planning time for teachers? As we have shared the stockpile days, it's not allowable for us to just give a full day of planning during those stockpile days as a result of the state. But we have talked about being more consistent. And when we have a stockpile day, maybe including 3 hours of planning time for teachers within those days to create more time during that time. And that's part of the conversation that we have been having with some of our collaborative conferencing. And we've also are talking about, through the collaborative conferencing, an opportunity to ensure that on professional development planning days or in-services and parent-teacher conferences and all other non-instructional days that we'd have at least 7 hours of a 7-hour day with at least an hour duty-free lunch is some of the things we've been talking about there. So know that the calendar itself might not add that time, but we're working towards making sure there's more time in there, because we do hear from teachers and agree that we have to find more planning time. So, but we can't change the schedule to do that on there. And also, there was lots of feedback regarding the times off. So as we were talking, we looked at the moving the week-long break into November creates a month with fewer instructional days. There were some people that had asked about Thanksgiving. That came up a lot. Could we take days away from the fall break and add them in November so we could have a full week off for the Thanksgiving break? The challenge there was as we looked at the number of instructional days that we had, we wanted to have balance. And because this board has already given us Veterans Day off, and we've had some other days off in November, the committee felt that adding the additional days in November would make it imbalanced, and we wouldn't have an equal amount of instructional days if we were to do that. And I did follow back up with members of the committee today, particularly MNEA, as well as our staff, and they concurred that there was lots of debate around those days, and they just felt that the way we have structured it now by having the full week off in October and the partial days for Thanksgiving made for more instructional days, 16 to 19 days per month, and it was more balanced to keep it that way. So we've talked about it, but the decision was we would recommend that we would keep it the way we had proposed it. Let's see. We talked about the fact that the longer break in October moves it closer to the middle of the semester. There was a question about whether the break should be in the third week of October versus the second week of October. And we discussed that last time and said, because of the TSU homecoming as well as the UT Knoxville homecomings, with so many staff being off on those days or taking off on those days, it posed a challenge. So having it during that third week provided more of an opportunity for us not to have the pressure of needing substitutes for that. It was the reason for that. But and then a number of employees and families communicated that they liked the predictability of the October break and they liked the full week because as families are planning, it's cheaper to take a vacation in October than it is during the Thanksgiving break. It was feedback that had come back. So for those reasons, we did not make changes. We gathered the feedback, but the calendar that we're proposing today is intact. And we have members of the committee here who could answer specific questions if there are additional questions regarding the calendar. And one thing we did note too was with kindergarten. Kindergartners, this calendar we are requesting to make the amendment that the first 2 days of school would be half days for kindergarten in this particular calendar. So that will help kindergartners transition better. That was feedback that we've gotten from many of our kindergarten teachers, and we recognize the need to do that. So we would ask for that amendment in this calendar, and it be reflected if approved.
Anybody have any questions? Ms. Pierce?
I have one question. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So I appreciate you mentioning the planning days because, of course, that is what I hear a lot about from teachers. When it comes to the in-service days, I assume that those are predetermined at the district or at central office, and then the individual principal has a little bit of flexibility or autonomy. Would you mind kind of speaking to that, or just how much flexibility do they have? Could some of those hours or half days be used, or half of a day be used for planning?
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to communicate to principals as we move towards the future is on those stockpile days that we allow at least 3 hours of planning time. The other time needs to be used for actual PD, but we can break up some of that time for planning and be more explicit across the district. Right now, it's inconsistent. Some principals give that time, others take the full day and full day professional development, but we'll make sure we block in some planning time on those days and communicate it through the collaborative conferencing process.
And now, do you mean 3 hours per day or 3 hours total over the 4 days? I don't want to put you in a binding contract. I'm just asking for, your thoughts.
I will defer to Dr. Felder. I'm not sure what that specific conversation was. I know we have Eric Huth here, who's been involved in those conversations as well, who probably could clarify for us.
While they're getting that together, could I ask just my second question about the committee?
Yes.
Because I've had a number of teachers reach out to me that may not be members of different organizations, and they want to know, well, what's the process? Can they be advocated for to become members of the committee? Just what the committee looks like, how many people are on it, just anything about it, and how they can become members.
Yeah, and
Right, so with regards to the 3 hours, so the recommendation is for 3 hours per PD stockpile planning day.
Okay.
Okay? And David, you're going to speak
David,
to
can
it?
you speak to the composition of the committee?
Certainly. So traditionally, teachers have been represented through professional organizations, same with staff through SEIU, and that continued this year. I certainly think it's feasible to look at other mechanisms for including teacher voice. We have mechanisms for teacher voice through teacher listening sessions and through advocacy through teacher councils, and those have all been a component of it. As I said in the leadership team when we presented the calendar, it might be easier to say who hasn't had a chance to look at it than who has. Gotcha. So there were a lot of eyeballs on this, and it took a lot of hours, but I think it winds up being a pretty good product.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Anybody else have any questions or comments around it?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to say less than more here, but I have struggled a little bit with the rationale behind the homecoming, scheduling our breaks around that homecoming. Would it be possible, since we have a whole lot of more children to educate, we've got to be really serious about educating them, that maybe we ask TSU, I'm not sure how much we're affected with UTK, that if we find the consistency is helpful to our families, if we're trying to choose the second week in October, that we ask them to try to make their homecoming then versus us bounce around based on their homecoming schedule? Just a thought.
We can definitely inquire.
Anybody else?
No, wait. This way.
Are you good, Ms. Buggs? Okay. All right. Well, I will entertain a motion to adopt the 2018-19 district calendar as presented. A motion to adopt the calendar as presented, please?
I so move.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any more discussion, questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote on it then. All right, so the motion passed unanimously as presented. Thank you, everybody. We will move to reports, our organization, and Dr. Joseph, MNPS next recommendations.
Thank you. As you are aware, at the September 26th board meeting, we shared some information regarding student enrollment trends and capacity utilization. How many of our schools are slightly below their capacity? As we indicated, overall enrollment is down across the district, and this differs by area of the city, in which it differs by the area in the city in which one resides or our schools are located. At the meeting, you asked me and staff to come back to you with a recommendation for possible consolidation or relocation recommendations for you to consider during the 2017-2018 school year. Tonight I'm recommending, and you will hear a brief presentation following, the consolidation of two low enrollment elementary schools that are within 1 mile of one another, Glenn Elementary and Caldwell Elementary, recommending that we move Merle Alternative Education School to the Glenn site. Currently, Glenn and Caldwell are operating significantly under capacity. The two schools are just 1 mile away from one another and serve the same community. Caldwell is the larger of the two schools and would accommodate all students. Additionally, by consolidating the two schools, it will help provide additional resources and staff talent to support our academic priorities such as literacy, technology, instruction, math, science, and the arts. The Merle School is housed in a building that is in need of a $9.5 million renovation. The Glenn building is a more modern facility that only requires approximately $400,000 to invest in a new HVAC system and some minor modifications to meet the specific needs of the Merle students. By moving Merle into Glenn Elementary School, it will help provide a safer, more spacious, modern facility to accommodate additional resources and staff talent to better support the needs of our Merle students and their families. It will also allow the district to save the capital expenses tied to renovations that can be repurposed to support programs and services. Last week, we had the opportunity to meet with the principals and staff from all three of these schools, and both distributed a call and letters to families. We also shared our recommendation with the council members and the MNPS Next Advisory Committee external members. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tamika Tasby, Executive Director for Innovation and Strategic Projects, and Dr. Shun Turner, Interim Executive Director of School Choice, to talk more about this potential consolidation.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving us the time to talk about the MNPS Next recommendations for Caldwell, Glenn, and Merle. The problem we want to solve is how can we improve the outcomes for students and still increase the district's resources and fiscal efficiencies. Before we go into our recommendations, let us focus on our district's goals to be the fastest improving urban school district system in America and to create high-quality school options and programs for students all across our district in every quadrant, and to deliver a great public education to every student every day. And with that in mind, MNPS Next has committed to improve access, equity, and efficiency in the district's academic programming and the use of facilities. You may recall that Phase 1 of MNPS Next dealt with the feasibility of moving 5th grade into the elementary school. Now we are in Phase 2, in which we are studying our facility usage and high-quality academic programs. Just to give you a little bit of background about how MNPS Next arrived at these recommendations, we first looked at school enrollment and how we're utilizing our buildings. And then we looked at building conditions and how that relates to student achievement. And finally, we discussed the efficient use of capital funding. First, MNPS Next would like to recommend the consolidation of Glenn into Caldwell Elementary for the school year 2018-19. Please note that Glenn's current enrollment is 162 students, and it is 70% utilized. Caldwell has 231 students and is 59% utilized. After consolidation, these two schools would have a combined student population of 393 students, making it 95% utilized. Also note that these schools are less than 1 mile apart. If we study the demographics of the students in these two schools, you'll note that both schools have large African American or Black student populations and relatively small white, Hispanic, or Latina and ELL, English language learner populations. And their students with disability populations practically mirror each other at 13% and 14%. For academic programming in these schools, it is a great opportunity to work with the schools to understand what they currently have, and then to do an analysis of the programs within the district and the quadrant. And then, since MNPS has received the $15 million Magnet School Assistance Program grant, a portion of that grant, a part of the goals, is to replicate many of the strategies and the curriculum developed in the grant. It would be a great idea for this combined school to be an early adopter of the strategies and curriculum developed. And then finally, to collaborate with all stakeholders, the students, the families, and community members, to identify the best option for the school combination. Please note that there are 31 employees at Caldwell, 20 teachers, and 30 at Glenn, 16 being teachers. The principal selection process would be the standard interview selection process for principals. with the current principals at Caldwell and Glenn, and the interviews and decision would be made by December. And then for staff interviews, the staff would be able to interview with the principal named for the consolidated schools, and all staff in good standing would be guaranteed a position in our district. The interviews would be held in January, and the decisions would be made by February. I'm going to pause and let Dr. Tasby talk about our second recommendation.
Thank you. So for the second recommendation, it's to actually relocate the Murrow School into the Glenn facility, into the building. As Dr. Joseph stated, the current building needs $9.5 million of renovation. So by moving it to the Glenn building, we would significantly reduce the cost of what that renovation would be. And it's a little tough to see this map, but there are some yellow dots. There's 3 yellow dots on the larger map. The 2 top dots are Caldwell and Glenn, and they are 1 mile apart. On the bottom towards the left is where Murrow School is located, and it's about 6 miles from the current Glenn building. Oh, and you're getting a copy of the presentation, so you can see that a little bit better. So what are the benefits? So the benefits of consolidating Caldwell and Glenn, there are quite a few. One of them is that it enhances the academic programming. So the schools will have more funding to be able to provide improved programming for their students. Also, the building will be utilized at about over 95%. So that will promote more efficient use of the building. And then also teachers have increased opportunity for collaboration. So instead of, say, 2 teachers per grade level, there'll now be 4 to 5 teachers per grade level, and they're able to really share ideas and be more creative in what they're delivering to our students. And lastly, it'll save over $500,000 per year because each of the schools in its current state actually receives supplemental funding to be able to operate at such a low enrollment. So that will also be a cost savings. What are the benefits of the relocation of Murrow to Glenn? Again, it will lower the district's renovation cost, and then the students will have access to a better facility. It's also a much larger facility, and the staff and the principal were very excited about the fact that they'll actually have playgrounds as part of their facility now. Not 1, but 2 playgrounds. It will also help to avoid instructional interruptions caused by construction. We won't have to worry about a delay in school starting or even interrupting and moving the kids between different parts of the building during construction. And then also it improves the transportation options. In talking to the transportation department, they talked about how there's better traffic patterns at the Glenn facility because students who attend Murrow attend from all parts of the district. So the traffic patterns are better, and even just the way that you drop off and pick up students is more convenient. So that would be an additional benefit to the relocation. So we know with school naming, each of the schools has a very each of them has a historical significance. And I'll give you just a few minutes to read those few bullets. And we know with naming of a school, sometimes there are ties. So what we're going to do is in naming the school, if this proposal is approved, we will follow the board policy regarding naming of facilities. So it would come in front of the board, and there would be input from the community regarding the naming, proposed name for the new school. So community engagement. There's various activities that we're doing and things we're doing to engage the community. And we did meet with the staff and the principal last week. And as Dr. Joseph stated, there were calls made to families on Wednesday night, and letters were sent home in backpacks on Thursday. We also notified the community partners for each of the schools, and they were all notified by yesterday. And then we will be going forward. We will be establishing community advisory groups, one around the consolidation and one around the relocation. So as we continue, if this were to be approved, and as we start planning for those moves, we would definitely make sure that we're having input from our community partners, our staff, and our students as well. We will also be having parent and community sessions. So starting tomorrow, we will have a session at Glenn Elementary. On October 26th, on Thursday, we'll have a parent and community session at Caldwell. On Monday, we'll have one at Merle School. And each of those, we will take whatever input we receive and then either present the information, come back with answers to the questions that we receive at those meetings. So we'll have a follow-up session on November 7th at Merle, and November 8th, there will be one at Caldwell, and it will actually be a joint session with both Caldwell and Glenn community and parents. So this is an overview of the timeline. We've already discussed the first few bullets, and tonight was the presentation to the board on October 24th. Over the next 3 weeks, we will be having our parent and community meetings, and then November 14th will be public comments at the Board of Education, and we will be providing information when we go to the schools this week, and Monday we will be providing details to attendees around how they can sign up to make public comments if they would like. We'll also be providing that information to the staff, so if they would like to come and make public comments on the 14th, we will give them that information. Also, the staff and parents in the community have been receiving frequently asked question documents, so if they have so we can try to answer some of their questions ahead of time, and then there's contact information for follow-up questions. So after public comments on November 14th, there will be a board decision. There will be a vote on November 28th on whether or not to proceed with this proposal. In addition to what's listed up there, December will be the principal interviews but with the two principals. In January, there will be teacher interviews, and all teachers will be notified by February whether or not they'll be working in that building or another location. And then in May, we will actually have a school transition ceremony for the buildings that we will be leaving. So that is a summary of the timeline. And with that, that concludes the presentation. So are there any questions?
Do we have any questions?
Yes, I have just a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Can you tell me a little bit about Merle School? What grades do they serve?
So they serve K to 8, and they are one of our exceptional education schools.
Okay, and then Glenn and Caldwell, do either of them offer pre-K? And
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Right now, neither of them offer pre-K. In the last year or two, there was one pre-K class that was moved to Ross, but in speaking with the pre-K department, they were actually excited about the consolidation because it could offer them an opportunity to include pre-K as part of the school again.
Perfect.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. B.
I had received some calls with teachers who were concerned about the enhanced option programs that were at one of the schools, and that they were acquiescent to the fact that they would receive some of the grant money. And they wanted to be sure that if enhanced options were not offered, that there would be a after-school program of some kind for those students that may need additional help. Maybe not all of the students would need it, but that some still would need some extra help after school. So they just wanted to be sure that perhaps some consideration would be given to that.
Thank you, and definitely once the new principal is named, then we can talk with the principal about the needs of the students and any after-school support.
Ms. Burke?
So my concern is always what we're going to be doing with buildings that we vacate when we consolidate schools. And, Nashville's a growing city. It's becoming more and more expensive to obtain properties like this. And I know we have to consider how much it would cost to renovate a building. But I guess I'm asking about the specific case, some of the proposals that we might have considered, and and then moving on in the future as we consider consolidations, I would love to see us have vacant buildings being used by the city or, for pre-K programs, model pre-K programs. But I think it's important to preserve these properties if we can, and not leave them vacant, because nobody likes a vacant building. So, I didn't know if anybody had any comments about this or if we've gotten that far yet, but.
In the case of Merrill, though, it is almost dilapidated.
Right.
So we would have to find some other options, I would think, in order to utilize funding that we might get from a sale, or we don't want to put any extra money in that building. That's the purpose of our moving to Glenn. So, but in other instances, I can see where we would have other concerns.
What has been the feedback so far? Have you had any feedback at all?
I think the feedback has been very positive. I was there at the staff meeting at Glenn, and many of the teachers had a lot of questions, of course, about their jobs for next year, but some were very excited about the possibilities for their students and what it would mean, the benefits for students to have those combined resources and to be early adopters of the curriculum and the strategies that we're using in the grant.
Thank you.
And I was at Merle and Caldwell, and at Caldwell, it was pretty much the same. And I mean, there definitely was concern, even though we stated that teachers who are in good standing are guaranteed a job. There was, not just teachers, but staff. There was definitely still a concern, around that. But after talking to them more, they became more comfortable and confident in the fact that that would happen. And at Merle, everybody was very excited about the possibility and wondered if it could happen sooner than next school year. So it was received very well.
And I would say Glenn and Caldwell are both in my district, and I've literally received one phone call from a teacher, and her concern was just making sure, since she will be retiring, that her colleagues will have a way to advocate for new programming. But I think the general consensus between principals, staff, parents is that these two schools, although they're in a very gentrified neighborhood with very affluent homes around them, is not a diverse school at all, with 93 and 94% of those students being African American. I bet if we looked at the socioeconomic status, we would see that kind of mirror, that many of those students are in low SES homes. So the possibility of having a more diverse student body, getting more support from the community, I think that sits well with them. So I've heard nothing negative so far, nothing. Thank you all. I know this has been a lot of work.
Hey, so I have maybe a couple of questions. But first, so I look at the slide on academic programs, and there's some work to do. And I'm going to take an assumption here and say this work will get us to some options. So we're not starting whiteboarding on programming for this consolidated building, right? And so I have a couple of questions, I guess. What are our guardrails? So in deciding what the programming will be, what are we hoping to accomplish? Is it creating a more diverse student population? So can we get an understanding of what the goals are that will help dictate the programmatic options to achieve what those goals are? So if we can, so hard to shape and guide the conversation, and so that, people aren't looking at a school to teach high altitude bubblegum blowing, which I've always wanted to do. But you understand what I'm saying. And so, and I know that for years we've been talking about gaps in program models. So like the PADEA model kind of starts somewhere and it hits a wall. We got Montessori schools that we don't know whether we're expanding or we're hitting the wall. So I think if we can help as a part of that discussion and getting feedback from parents, help them understanding what the pathway options currently are. And what the, I was getting there, physics. I was getting there. What the program options currently are. And if, because of feeding into a STEM high school, I know we've got the magnet program option here. I know the STEM grant is a separate one from the magnet program option. But if somehow we can take $5 from one and $27 from the other and get something in that vein, whatever the options are. But just being able to put some guardrails and some guidance so that the program options don't leave the students at Glenn, whatever it turns out to be named, leave them isolated and nowhere to continue whatever the thematic or whatever the focus of the program is.
Right, and I think your thinking is correct. We want to look at what is already existing in our district and what is working, and we would be wise to look at those strategies that we're using in the Magnet School Grant, which is, of course, STEM and STEAM related. And we know that that would create a nice little pathway to their high school. And also to use the outcomes of the grant, which would be to reduce racial isolation and to boost student achievement as the goal. So you're correct.
We can just put those on big Post-it notes in the room so people don't.
Anybody else? Ms. Pierce?
Well, just in that vein, thank you, Sharon, for those great comments. But I have some schools in my district that are not consistent with the foreign language. So we have different feeders coming to a middle with all these different languages. So again, things can get stopped or, kids are waiting while the other kids try to learn. So I think the more consistent we can be in helping those programs make sense all the way through the pathway, just benefits all the kids.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We will move on to the board chair report. Actually, she doesn't have a report tonight. I am deferring to my colleague, Amy Frog. She and Jill attended the Network for Public Education Conference, and she has a report on it.
All right, so Jill and I were going to be here together on matching T-shirts or Fight for Public Education T-shirts, but alas, I'm alone. And I'm going to read both of our reports, so apologies for speaking so long. But I'll start out with Jill's report from the conference. The Network for Public Education, its fourth annual conference, which took place in Oakland, California, October 13th through 15th, was attended by approximately 500 people from the U.S. and Europe. This conference was attended by parents, teachers, state legislators, school board members, principals, and superintendents. The organization and the conference was built on the following tenets. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. That's a quote from JFK in 1963. We call for an equitable education for all students. Justice for all must prevail. Education is the great equalizer. Segregated schools equals a segregated life. Students in segregated schools are less likely to attend and graduate from college. They are more likely to be poor as adults, more likely to spend time in jail, more likely to live in a segregated neighborhood, and less likely to be healthy as adults. In short, students who attend segregated schools live shorter lives. The privatization movement is having a destructive impact on public education, which threatens our democracy. There is a critical need to invest and support public education rather than allowing schools of exclusion to market and sell parents a bill of goods that ultimately fails students, communities, and neighborhoods. We must never adjust ourselves to economic conditions that take necessities from the many and give to the few. We are not defenders of the status quo. The status quo is unacceptable. We must improve public education, not monetize it. Our goal is to effectively teach each and every child by knowing students intimately. We must protect student data. The currency of data has now surpassed oil as the most valuable resource. We must stop high-stakes testing because it serves to corrupt public education. ESSA offers an innovative assessment option, which New Hampshire is using, that has demonstrated consistency, reliability, and comparability. We need top-down support for bottom-up reforms. We support developmentally appropriate education, including play and recess. Children and adults need time to exercise their bodies and their spirits. We must be child-driven rather than merely data-driven. Inappropriate standards have created more opportunities for SPED referrals and incorrect placements due to standards-driven curricula rather than child-centered education. We want to protect the teaching profession and the professional autonomy of teachers to teach as they know best. We fight for the right of every child to attend a fully funded, excellent public school in every neighborhood where classes are small enough for children to get individual attention and where experienced teachers are respected and valued. We want every child to have an education that's well-balanced, that includes not only the basic skills, but also civics and history and literature and math, science, foreign languages, and certainly the arts. Every school should have a well-supplied library with a trained librarian. Every school should have a school nurse every day. We oppose the standardization of children and instruction. We are deeply concerned about the misuse of technology. We're especially concerned about the data mining of children, about invasions of their privacy, about commercial use of their personally identifiable data, and about any efforts to replace teachers with computers. We believe that the soul of learning is personal interactions between teachers and students, among students and students, not an interaction between students and machines. We have principle, we have passion. We want every child to be seen as a unique individual, not a data point. We believe that educators should be treated as professionals and not testing monitors. We believe in humanity, not mechanization, not standardization, not mindless data-driven drivel. We want education to be informed by data, but not driven by data. Schools should be not driven by data, but by the needs of children and by the love of learning. That's Jill's report, and here is mine. So it's my Amy hat. There were several fantastic keynote speakers at the Network for Public Education Conference this year, including a thought-provoking presentation by 2017 MacArthur genius Nicole Hannah-Jones, an investigative journalist chronicling civil rights and the persistence of racial segregation in America, particularly in education. Through her work, Hannah-Jones has highlighted the importance of educating all of our children together, emphasizing that those without resources will receive the same education as those with resources when they are in the same schools. She also discussed her difficult personal decision to place her own child in her neighborhood school, quote, a poor Black and Latino school, in order to, quote, live her values. She concluded, "We cannot say we want equal educational opportunities for all children and then fight to advantage our own." Interestingly, her comments from the perspective of an African-American mother in Brooklyn mirror those of a white Christian mother whose blog I recently posted on social media. Both ultimately reached the same conclusion, which is this: it's not just my own kids' well-being that matters anymore. Or as Hannah-Jones puts it, as long as individual parents continue to make choices that benefit only their own children, you can support equality as a principle all you want, but we're not going to see a change. Here's some of the information Hannah-Jones shared during her presentation. School segregation is both structural and systemic, but it is also upheld by individual choices. Research shows that when higher income families send their children to high poverty schools, the education of their students does not suffer. And as an aside, I'll say I can attest to this from personal experience. Individual choice and the vast inequality in public schools have helped open the door for the privatization choice movement. The longer a Black child stays in a segregated school, the wider her achievement gap grows and the further she falls behind her peers. Jill's already made this point, but segregated schooling equals a segregated life. We can predict the resources in a school based on the color of the skin of the children in that building. Schools were desegregated between 1968 and 1988. At the peak of desegregation in 1988, the achievement gap was at its smallest. Since that time, we've gone backwards. The marketization of public schools normalizes a two-tiered system and upholds inequality. Focusing on test scores is how we get away with not doing the real work. And by the real work, she means addressing school segregation, which has the greatest impact on school and student performance. Research demonstrates that 70% of charter schools are, quote, intensely segregated, double the percentage of traditional schools. But many other schools are segregated as well. This charter school privatization debate has never really been about charter schools or school governance models. It's actually about equity, whether some schools are draining others of resources, whether some schools are increasing district-wide segregation, et cetera. And unfortunately, years into this experiment, we now have research that demonstrates that the privatization and marketization of public education increases segregation and inequity in an already inequitable school system. Here's a case in point presented at the conference by a researcher from Stanford. A few decades ago, Sweden and Finland chose different paths to improve education. Sweden opted for school choice and school privatization. This has led its once high-quality school system into crisis, resulting in plummeting test scores, low teacher morale, and a widening achievement gap. Sweden now has a fragmented system in need of, quote, urgent change. Finland, on the other hand, focused on equity and social inequality. Finland has high-paid teachers, but no school choice, no charter schools, no standardized testing, and no private schools. Finland now has what is considered the best school system in the world. As we know, schools can be segregated in many different ways by race, socioeconomics, language facility, and special needs. They can be segregated according to academic ability and parental engagement. We live in an increasingly segregated society, both socioeconomically and racially. Housing policies and gentrification help reinforce segregation in large cities like Nashville. And school systems are often set up to promote individual choice, leading to parent frenzy about making the, quote, right choices for our children. Because we are living in a time of collective high anxiety, as one presenter at the conference suggested, we tend to make fear-driven choices toward more segregated schools. But if we truly care about all children and want to give them more than just lip service, we can no longer talk about, quote, those children as different from our own and allow them to be educated in a school environment different from what we expect for our own children. And schools without libraries, without the arts, without the freedom to practice critical thinking skills, without the ability to advocate for their own needs, without school nurses, without a rich educational environment. We must stand firm against an inequitable school system that serves some children well and leaves more behind. This is a difficult conversation, but as a board and as a community, we must have it. We are all worried about our own children and want to give them every advantage we can. But if we know that diversity truly matters in schools, and research tells us without a doubt that it does, how do we ensure diverse learning environments that benefit all children? Are we willing to take the collective leap to fix the current trajectory? What will we do to ensure that children other than our own, particularly those with the greatest needs, have the same chances? And if we're going to offer parental choice, how do we do so in a way that will increase integration and not greater segregation? This board has the unique privilege to enact policies that will ensure more integrated, more equitable schools, but we have to be willing to have the hard discussions and make the difficult decisions. That is how we will best serve all children, and that is our best hope for not only a better school system, but also for a better society. And I'll close with a quote from John Dewey. What the best and wisest parent wants for his own child, that must the community want for all of its children. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will go into announcements. Dr. Gentry. Okay, Dr. Brandon.
I'd just like to thank the community for helping Granbury to have a successful festival. The Trucks and Tunes was a huge success.
Great. Ms. Webb.
Just want to announce that Hillwood High School is performing, students from Hillwood High School are performing Midsummer Night's Dream on November 2nd through 4th at 7 p.m., and tickets are $5 at the door.
Hunter.
I'd like to share something funny. I had an opportunity to attend the Council of Great City Schools conference with Dr. Brannon, Deborah Smart, and Dr. Joseph, Monique, and Cito. I think my favorite was the "We've Only Just Begun" segment, where 3 first-year superintendents shared the ups and downs of leading urban school districts. And one of the school superintendents talked about his first day of school, and none of the buses showed up at all while he was waiting with his own child. And I just watched Dr. Joseph, and I think last year when we were going through that experience, he never realized that there was something really wrong with transportation because we kept him so busy. but he seemed really nervous for the guy. But anyway, I really enjoyed that experience.
Good. Ms. Pierce?
Yes, this Saturday, October 28th at 10 o'clock, JT Moore is hosting their Campus Beautification Day and are calling all volunteers. So if you can just come out and spend an hour pulling weeds or just cleaning up different things, they'd appreciate that. And then also actually tonight, so right now between 5:30 and 8, Tools for Schools is having their open house. And we had the benefit of hearing from those volunteers about a month ago. They do great work for this district, so hoping to get to stop by. And then Hillsborough High School Players is presenting Peter Pan. It opens this Thursday and runs till Monday. So you can get your tickets at hillsboroughplayers.com or at the door. All shows are at 7, and there's a matinee at 2 on Saturday as well.
And so in vein of what, of my previous announcements, I would just like to extend another thank you to Dr. Monique Belder and Dr. Joseph for participating today in the leadership for Donaldson Hermitage, and also thank you to the faculty and staff at McGavock Elementary, Two Rivers Middle School, and McGavock High School, and for hosting us in their schools, and to the wonderful chef and culinary students at McGavock High School who fixed a great meal for us today. And so Ms. Buggs is not here. Ms. Pierce?
Being there no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.